All right, everyone. Apparently, there is a transgender vegan cult called the Zizians within the United States. These are linked to the Border Patrol murder, actually, in my home state of Vermont. And this doesn't really surprise me. I'm sure that they'll try to blame it on Donald Trump. Say, Donald Trump has spawned a vegan transgender murder cult in a blue state like California. You watch. They'll spin it every way that they possibly can. This doesn't really surprise me. After 4 years of wokeness, the United States lapsed into absolute insanity. And so groups like this were not really gone after by the federal government. And so a transgender vegan club, which turns murderous, doesn't really surprise me that much. I wish I could say that I was surprised, but I'm really not. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not surprised at all because this is the sort of thing that you would expect out of such a dysfunctional administration. And it doesn't surprise me that they would strike in mainly blue states. Vermont, for example, apparently spawned in California, and a bunch of people have finally been detained as part of this particular group. It's some sort of weird worship cult. I don't know what they're worshiping, though. Must be Moloch or something like that. That doesn't surprise me either. The former administration really overlooked things like this. So a cult would form, people were storming the border, people were engaging in cartel crime, and it was effectively like, well, there's nothing we can do about it. It doesn't really matter now, does it? And so they overlooked it. The current administration actually kind of gives a damn about such things and is cracking down on them, and seen as racist in the process, by the way. I would not be surprised to see the legacy media blame Donald Trump for spawning a transgender vegan cult in the state of California that's dedicated to killing border agents more than anything else. They did that in Vermont. This was the Vermont murder of the border agent there was linked to this same group of people. It wouldn't surprise me in the least. I mean, I hate to say it because, I mean, I never thought that I would have to say such a thing. It wouldn't surprise me if Donald Trump was blamed effectively for the existence of the cult itself. Donald Trump is trying to kill off border agents by hiring vegan transgenders. That would make no sense. I would shake my head and roll my eyes at the same time if I heard the story, but it would not surprise me if that were actually the news. It wouldn't surprise me in the least. We've gone into some weird timeline at this point where literally nothing makes sense. And I think that a lot of you get the same sense at the same time. Because the legacy media has gone completely insane. They're wagon circling and ass covering 24/7. And it's like a 10-second news cycle anyway, so, it's just a thing. And covering for the former administration simply because Orange Man bad. So Donald Trump is clearly responsible for this, for the Zizians, which is apparently the terminology they use for themselves. And it reminded me of something. I've got a bunch of tracts from Astara and some of these other groups, the IM group, the IM movement, and things like that, from back in the day. Some of these were like UFO cults and stuff like that. Most of the time, they didn't really call for violence, but they were almost universally formed in California. It seems to be the cult hub of the world. California uniquely is responsible for spawning like fucking half of the cults that have ever existed, at least in the North American region. And so I was looking back through some of their literature actually only a few days ago, before I came here to New Orleans. And I was looking at it and I was like, oh shit, some of this is some weird fucking shit. And I was like, California is a weird place to be. It's a place where weird people will congregate because weird people are welcomed. I would probably be welcomed in California if I didn't have my particular political beliefs, by the way. And they go there, and then if they're charismatic, they draw followers and stuff like that. And then you get this sort of shit. You end up with border agents getting shot or stabbed to death and stuff like that. And it happened in my home state of Vermont, and so I've got skin in the game with regards to this one, and it shouldn't have happened. The former administration ignored these problems. It effectively said, well, we don't know what's going on. Oh my God, you're perfectly fine. Meanwhile, it wasn't perfectly fine. The Trump administration is trying to tear the bandage off of the gaping wound at the moment and say, look, behold, it's not fine. We need drastic measures in order to address these problems. A vegan transgender cult. Can you fucking imagine it? If I had gone back in time and told you that this would be a news headline today, 10 years ago, you would have called me batshit. You would have called me fucking crazy. And yet it's actually happening. And unfortunately, it's also unsurprising because all of the problems in the country were basically left alone for 4 entire years. That's a long time, even on a human timeline. That's a long time for things to fester. The border crisis, the crime crisis, cartel activity, apparently, vegan cults and stuff like that. Again, if I had gone back in time and told you 4 or 5 years ago, hey, there's going to be a transgender vegan cult that's going to kill border agents, and the administration will do nothing about it. And Donald Trump, by the way, will be reelected. None of you would have believed me. And you would have had good reason not to believe me because it's unbelievable. That's the whole point. It's completely unbelievable. It's completely obscene. It makes absolutely no sense. Why did our country allow this problem to metastasize? Um, who knows? Probably through malevolence, possibly through decadence. That's about all. Peace out.